How
I'm
are you?
sorry? I'm all right. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great ever since you said yeah.
Huh.
Because that day was, oh man, that day I had another interview, but I had some technical issues and it got postponed. I was like thinking, what can I do? Who can I find? And I was actually waiting to ask you for a couple of more interviews on my channel. And then I thought, heck, I'm just gonna ask Joel until he
Okay.
says yeah. Oh, your cat is there.
Yeah, my cat seems to want to be a part of the interviews lately.
That's okay. I sent my dog to the other room, but that's okay. How long have you been living in New York?
Uh, Long time, about
Oh,
20 years.
oh, because I know you're a Chicago kid and you were born and raised there, right?
Yeah, technically not born. I was born in Iowa City, and then
Oh,
when I was
really?
a baby, my parents moved to the suburbs of Chicago. Yeah. So I think that's maybe wrong on my Wikipedia page.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. We should change that.
But you did your research. That's all right.
Yeah, I've been pretty much memorizing everything about you in the past couple of days, and I'm gonna forget all tomorrow. So,
Okay.
what's your favorite thing compared to Chicago? Like your favorite thing about New York?
What's my favorite thing about Chicago and my favorite thing about New York?
No, your favorite thing about New York compared to Chicago? Like, what's the
Oh,
best thing?
uh, I guess the music scene was a little bit more open, I'd
Mhm.
say, internationally, maybe. Like there's a lot of successful kind of local musicians in Chicago, but when you get on the coast of the US, I think it's tied in a little bit more to international touring.
Oh yeah. Well, I know you're a pretty busy guy and you're always touring and working with a bunch of musicians, like different musicians at the same time. And how has the past 7, 8 months been for you? How was your quarantine? Was it as busy as usual, or was it like a legitimate break from everything?
Well, it started out, I'd say, when everything got serious here. I was on tour at the beginning of the year with Whitesnake already. We were in Australia, New Zealand, and Indonesia and Singapore, and then we were supposed to go to Japan on our own, and that's kind of when everything hit the wall.
Yeah.
So came home, and right at that time, I took the opportunity to make up for lost time with the kids because last year I was gone 285 days on tour out of the year. So I was only home 80 days. So I was like, all right, this is a blessing. Take advantage. So I laid a little low on the work. I mean, I did the Echo Bats project and worked on my album at night.
Yeah.
That's coming out soon, hopefully. Uh, but then at a point, I was like, this isn't going to be a short thing. So it's probably time for me to really get back to work and figure out how I can be the most productive. And so really, since then, I've been doing a lot of teaching and a lot of doing sessions for people and a lot of writing.
Mhm.
So I'm very, very busy. I mean, I would say I'm busier right now than I've been on tour.
Oh man.
Uh, just
Oh.
despite the fact that I took away travel and everything like that, every day
Mhm.
is something. I've done sessions the last 6 nights for 6 different things, maybe
Mhm.
7 nights in a row now. I
Wow.
have something tonight, and every day I'm teaching 6 lessons, basically Skype lessons, 5 days a week. So I have a little over 30 students a week, and then also add into that master classes that I've been doing for Rock and Roll Fantasy
Yeah, yeah.
Camp or Rock Stars of Tomorrow, and so man, slammed. I mean, like every day is like at least 9 or 10 hours of guitar playing and
Oh
working.
wow.
So
You have no other choice but being good after that. Like you have to be great. How do you balance everything, like family, career, friends? Like, do you have a secret for that?
well, right now, the family has been at my in-laws' home on Fire Island, which is like a beach community. So
Mm.
they've been kind of enjoying the last little over 2 months all at the beach. And I've been back at the home in New York City doing all this stuff. So about to figure out how it all balances very quickly when they come home. It's been pretty easy to balance it so far, but it's going to be tricky for sure. And then friends, I mean, my friends are usually like who I'm working with anyway. So I feel
Yeah.
like whoever I'm interacting with for my job, or basically that's, I don't know.
That's
That's
pretty
just
clever. That's
professional.
pretty clever.
Life has kind of taken me where the people I interact with or work with are usually my friends anyway. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you were, speaking of family, you were born into.
Not a beer, seltzer water.
Oh, it's okay.
Not, not
Go.
drinking a beer.
It's okay. I wouldn't mind if you did. Like, it's 11 p.m. here, so I'm just going
Yeah,
with
right.
tea. Like,
Yes. No, I've got my coffee and my seltzer water. That's
oh
pretty
yeah.
much it for the day.
I got like whole day. I was practicing the questions I prepared. Like, there are 2 pages of questions here, Joel. This is gonna be a while.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I got so excited that my throat was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I have to find something hot. Okay, so you were kind of born into a classical musician's family, and because of your parents, but when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, rock and metal, all those genres were kind of mainstream, right? Yeah, like, so how did you went from classical to being an AC/DC kid?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It was
Yeah.
basically the beginning of MTV when they had AC/DC on MTV and seeing Angus Young and
Hmm.
being like, wow, man, that guy's so cool. I want to be like him. So that was the beginning of it for me. Uh, that's the nail on the head. I mean, I'm glad that my parents had me playing other instruments when I was really young because it helped propel me when I started playing guitar into the learning process of it. But I didn't really fall in love with music until I heard AC/DC.
Well, at the beginning, like beginning an instrument, starting to learn an instrument, like some of the most important things are like quality of the instrument and teacher, and you had an experience like that with your first and second teacher, right? Um, and then you were also a teacher before your career. Well, as a teacher and someone who experienced something like that, what would you like to say, like, to beginners? What should they um, be careful about?
Beginners, it's all about consistency. So making sure that you're playing every day and moving forward every day. I always tell people if you play every day, which is hard to do, that you're a guitar player. I don't care if you're a professional or amateur. If you play guitar every day, you're a guitar player. So if you practice hard one day and don't play for 4 or 5 days, all that hard work just got thrown out in the
Which
trash
is
can.
me.
Not really a
That's
guitar
me.
player. So it's harder to be the person who had a really rough day and very busy with work and to convince yourself to play guitar. Most people at that stage are like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
But if you're the person that picks it up for 5 or 10 minutes and plays, then you're a guitar player. You have to just get used to introducing it into your daily life. Because I think it's all about consistency in the early going.
Yeah. Well, what do you think in general, not just about beginners, in general, as a musician who came this far in his life, like, what do you think is the key of success? Because I know you don't believe in that shining moment. You think that it happens step by step, or at least it happened like that for you. So, what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. It's hard work and lots of baby steps. That whole like big break, you're not going to go from playing in your bedroom to being in the biggest band in the world. You kind of have
Yeah.
to climb all the steps. So that's the way it works.
Which also brings this topic that I really want to talk about. I'm coming from an artist family, and you're coming from an artist family. Honest conversation. There are struggles, like a lot of struggles, and people just think it's easy when you look from another perspective. But as long as you don't buy your ticket to the show and ask for invitations, or buy the painting, ask for them free, it's just that's not going to happen. And these struggles just make a lot of people quit. And as an artist family's kid, what would you like to say about that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Um, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. It's complicated because you got to go through a lot of tough times and be able to get through just being able to work hard. And there's always a window closing. And if you don't work hard enough, the window closes and your plan B takes over, and your plan B will inevitably become your plan A, because if there is one, it's going to be much easier than making a living in music. But at the same time, it's as simple as like, are you working really, really hard?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of musicians, they wait for the opportunity instead of creating the opportunity through working really hard. And hard work will definitely create good luck, as people call it.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't a musician? You're a sporty guy.
Man, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't
Really?
know. So, I mean, something either creative or on the fringe of the business. I mean, I enjoy working with other people. Doing the teaching thing is like slightly different than being a performer. So in a way, I'm already kind of doing that, but I would say the management or marketing end of things appeals to me. I'm usually really into like getting other people hooked up with gigs and doing things for other
Yeah.
people. I actually enjoy doing that. So I don't know, something like that I could potentially see, but in general, I have really no backup plan at all.
Well, I always thought you would be a basketball player or something if you weren't a musician, because
No,
yeah, you're
I'm an
tall and
old
you
man
enjoy it.
now. I mean, I'm nothing more than a guy who goes around and like works on shooting outside of. But that's my hobby and my escape from music.
Oh yeah, I understand. How many guitars do you have? Because I actually saw a video of you an interview, I think, like you were showing all those guitars you use on stage for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and man, that was a lot. Like you had a lot.
Yeah,
And are they
I
all
bring a lot
yours?
of that here. I think I own like roughly about 40, something like
Oh
that. So
wow.
not, I mean, it's a lot, but at the same time, for somebody like me who's made a living at it for as long as I have, it's not that crazy.
And normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fairly normal.
well, do you bond with your instruments? Like, do you have a favorite, a personal favorite?
My gold top Les Paul is definitely my favorite guitar.
Okay, well, speaking of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, wow, that's like a huge stage, a huge show, bunch of talented musicians, including you. Can you tell a bit about that? Like, I saw a comment under one of the videos yesterday. Someone was saying like, if you didn't see this guy playing with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, like you missed a lot. What did I miss, Joel?
Oh, I mean, it's just an awesome production, and it's all about us working to make the show as good as it can be. With TSO, it's always about the show, so it's not really about me. It's about the production itself and the show itself. So you got to be a good team player with that,
Mm-hmm.
and understand it's always about the big picture. But yeah, I mean, it's a production unlike any other. So I would say, I've been blessed to be part of it.
Oh, wow. Teamwork is always, helping out, right? Like you gotta be easygoing to work with other people, and which I see in you. Like you seem like a really easygoing guy. Like,
Uh, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely driven, but at the same time, always see the big picture and um, never tried to be pushy in the
mhm,
situations I've been in.
best way. Did you give a break with Cher, or did you leave the orchestra for good because you were gonna focus on Whitesnake if this end of the world thing wasn't happening?
I don't quite understand what you mean. Did I take a break from TSO? Is
No,
that what you said?
Cher.
From Cher. Cher is not, that was basically off at the top of this year when I had such a busy year with Whitesnake. So
Hmm.
when it came time for her schedule, I was only available for about 20% of it. So that kind of took it, like hit a fork in the road at the top of the year. That was great when it came about in 2017 because David was taking a year off for his knee surgery. And then 2018, he only kind of wanted to put the toe in the water and do a couple months with Foreigner to see how he was feeling. And then it got really complicated last year. when Whitesnake was busy again, and I only made 50% of the Cher shows. And she was really great about it and kept me on for a very long time, even though I was subbing it out constantly. But when it came time for this year's calendar, and I was like, I'm available for 20% of it, that was a problem.
What does she like to work with? She seems really cool. Like,
yeah, not much to report. I mean, just like you'd imagine, very professional.
Yeah.
She was really good to me. No issues.
Yeah. Whitesnake. Your entrance to Whitesnake. How did everything happen? Like, I want to know all about Whitesnake. Make sure you speak long about that.
So you mean how
How you got in there? Like, how they'll find
well, that
you?
was I sent some video links to Reb when they needed somebody, and Reb passed them along. I didn't hear anything at first, and then I thought I should at least be able to get an audition. And I hit up Phil Carson, who manages Foreigner, to reach out to David. And I was just trying to think of who David would know and respect, and that totally worked out. David was tight with Phil Carson and listened to him and gave me an audition, and then things went really well. So that's basically the path in.
Okay, well, you were co-writer of 6 songs in Flesh and Blood, right? Is that true?
7 with the bonus edition.
Oh man, 7. Well,
and 8 if you include the track that wasn't on it that is on the rock album.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I like to say I got 8 co-writes with David that are released right now.
Well, 8 co-writes. What is it like to be in a creative process with David Coverdale?
Really great. Thankfully, by the time we sat down to do this kind of stuff, David and I knew each other really well. I mean, we had a few years of experience of already touring and working together, so there's a friendship there and clear lines of communication, not lanes. But David's not afraid to say if I had an idea that wasn't right, and rather than kind of beating around the bush and then saying afterwards that wasn't good or whatever.
Okay.
But so in the end, it was really just fun, quick. David writes really, really fast, and so really great. We had fun actually. I mean, it wasn't as stressful as people make it out to be. The groove that I found worked the best with David was having an idea of his and then adding to it. Seemed to be where we met the best in terms of being able to collaborate.
How can it even be boring? Like, how do people think that songwriting on its own is
I think people think stressful. Like, weren't you intimidated and stressed out? It's like, well, I mean, not really, because you just do the best you can. And David and I, like I said, there was a level of familiarity there already. So I wasn't stressed out and didn't feel. David's great. I mean, great boss.
I imagine that. Well, what would you say about your chemistry, both with David and rest of the band, with Brad and everyone else?
What would I couldn't quite understand the beginning of it. What would I say about what?
What would you say about your chemistry?
Oh, chemistry. I mean, I think it's really good. David likes to work with people that are professional and courteous, and that he can be friendly with, but also that respect the fact that it's a business and a brand that he spent, whatever, I don't know how many years now, 45 years working, building up Whitesnake. So, which I do, so we really haven't had any issues. I mean, I think as long as you are professional and respect that and don't do anything to compromise Whitesnake as a whole, then, as far as I'm concerned, he's been really easy to work with. I haven't had he's been nothing but good to me.
Well, I personally would love to interview like you and Rab in person, like face to face, because you two like are a hilarious duo. And do you have any crazy stories with Rab? Like anything funny?
Nothing specific, but I mean, Reb's a very funny guy. All the guys at Whitesnake are really funny. I find that to be a common trait amongst musicians, I guess, because the humor is our way to get through it all. And it's also probably the reason we chose the profession we chose, because we didn't want to become serious, I guess, strict, boring people. So everybody is very funny. Reb is certainly no exception. He's a really witty guy, very fun. So we have a good time, and we all enjoy the current lineup, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, doing my research, I kind of learned everything, pretty much everything about you, but this is an interview, so I feel like I still have to ask everything. Like, can you tell a bit about your
My cat
um
won't get on the interview again. Yeah, come on up. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Can you tell a bit about your experiences with Night Ranger and how you felt from Mick Jones of Foreigner when he was sick?
Yeah, well, Night Ranger happened through me being in the house band for Jim Peterick in his world stage, and I did that for a long time. And that's just one or two shows a year tops. And Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger was always one of the guests. So Kelly and I developed a rapport. And when there was an opening, it gave me an opportunity because Kelly saw that I was the type of guy that would learn a bunch of songs on no rehearsal. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was something that where I got a show to fill in with them because I was that type of guy who's willing to learn a bunch of stuff and hop in and fill in and do a good job. So I did that, and that really led to a full-time position with them, and a great experience. And then regarding Nick Jones, that was Night Ranger being on tour with Foreigner. So Night Ranger Foreigner Journey was the bill, and coupled with the fact that Foreigner's manager Phil Carson was around Rock of Ages that I was playing in on Broadway, because he also manages Dee Snider, and Dee was a
Mm-hmm.
part of the show. So Phil was around a lot and had seen me play a couple Foreigner songs in the show, and we knew each other. So when Mick uh, fell ill on the tour and needed somebody to fill in, that led to Phil Carson asking me because he thought, well, this guy already knows a couple of the songs. He's
Mm-hmm.
out here. Let's ask him to fill in. So yeah, there you go.
Well, you had 6 years on Broadway, Rock of Ages, and lastly, Monsters of Rock. Can you tell a bit about those as well?
Well, yeah, Rock of Ages, that came about after I'd been in Night Ranger almost a year, and that came about through me filling in and for a friend of mine who lives nearby here who plays in the pits, traditional pit
Mm-hmm.
musician. And I learned his books, whatever he would get. If he was on a show, I would learn it and maybe fill in for him here or there. And through that, I developed a rapport with who became the music supervisor for Rock of Ages. So I got hired off of subbing and pit music, not from being in Night Ranger. And so I got hired for Rock of Ages, and that was great because it allowed me to sub out and keep Night Ranger and keep Trans-Siberian Orchestra during those 6 years, and not compromise my real world
Mm-hmm.
uh, touring. So that ended up being a real great blessing. And then in terms of the Monsters of Rock cruise, that was the first year I did that. Night Ranger was on, and Larry Morand, who runs that cruise and puts it together, was a fill-in tour manager for Night Ranger. So we developed a friendship, and Larry liked having me on and has always asked me on to have this I guess it's just called like a Bloody Mary hangover jam in the morning, where I give away free Bloody Marys to everybody who comes. I get everybody drunk at like 10:30 in the morning, and just have a very like easygoing acoustic set. It's become a tradition at this point, so that's been great. I love building things like that where it's like a tradition, and Larry's a wonderful guy for keeping me in the fold there, and great guy. That's a great cruise. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Echobats. Yeah, at the beginning you said Echobats, and I just heard Sammy from Loving You yesterday, and so cheerful, so great. Like, how did that happen? How did the idea came to you guys?
So Tony Harnell is a New York City area guy as well, and he came to Rock of Ages, and we developed a little bit of a friendship there. And always said, "Boy, it'd be fun to do something someday," but we never did. And then him and Matt Starr were talking about starting a project, and they reached out to me, and we said, "Well, let's do something that's not like typical hard rock because everybody's got their hard rock stuff going on already. Let's do
Mhm.
something more like Queen." So we gave Tony a bunch of ideas, and this is the first one he completed, and we decided to put it out during this time because things are slow, and
Yeah.
So yeah, it went really well. People love the song. There's a radio campaign behind it right now, so it's on the radio in the UK and Australia and
Oh, that's
Canada.
great.
Yeah, doing quite well.
That's great. Joel, what is your thing with 13? What is your thing with 13? Like Joel Hoekstra's 13, your solos. Let's talk a bit about your solos.
You mean my
Solo
solo
albums.
project with Joel Hoekstra's 13 is what I consider to be like my rock side project, because I had 3 solo albums out that were instrumental guitar stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was making this album that was more like straight ahead songs and like sounded like a band. So I didn't really want to call it a solo album because it wasn't necessarily me just showing off on guitar the whole time. Not at all. It was more about like putting out like just a rock album where I
Yeah.
wrote everything and produced everything. So put that out in 2015 called Dying to Live, the first album, and there's another one that's basically done right now that I just need to figure out how to release it and when to release it. So that's what's happening there.
Well, from the first, you have 3 albums, right? Like on the side.
3 solo albums and
3
then
solos, right?
and one for 13. Yeah.
From first to third, like how were the reactions from your fans? Like, did you follow the feedback, like reactions? Did they like it? Maybe they like the first one more, they like the third one less, like
Well,
anything like
people like the Joel Hoekstra's 13 stuff more because it's more palatable. It's like rock songs. So that was part of the problem, was I had these wild instrumental albums that when people were seeing me with Night Ranger or Whitesnake or whatever, were like, man, you should release a solo album that sounds more like that, right?
Yeah.
That's just common sense. So, which was great. I always wanted to do that anyway, release like a straight ahead rock album, not because I've been through my career, I've played a lot of different styles. And so anyway, people like the Joel Hoekstra's 13 stuff a lot more than the solo albums. The solo albums are really cool, but they appeal more to guitar players.
Well, about the new album, like will you sing? Because apparently your fans would like to hear a ballad from you. They sent me some questions, so
They'd like to hear a ballad from me on the new
yeah,
album.
like
Oh,
from you singing.
oh, I'm never gonna. No, I'm not. I wouldn't sing on the Joel Hoekstra's 13 thing.
Oh man. Well, what's the reason for that? That your voice?
Because I'm not a lead singer, really. I mean, I'm like a background. I'm a background singer.
Oh yeah, I understand that. Well, someone asked yesterday, like, what's the story behind your song Twigs?
Well, that was just the title is basically dedicated to a dog that we had, where it never quite got the concept of bringing the sticks back that you would throw. So it was more like throw the stick, the dog would go get it. And so I called that game with the dog Twigs, because fetch was not really, never brought it back. So anyway, yeah, and the dog just got old and died. So I dedicated the song to the dog.
Oh.
So.
Well, speaking of projects, like who would you like to collaborate with, dead or alive? Maybe someone who influenced you back when you were younger, or even still now influences you.
Anybody who's really talented and positive minded, and you can never be too specific about that stuff, because if you work hard you'll end up in places that are good that you never would have dreamed of. So when I was 11 learning Black Sabbath songs, I never would have thought I'd play guitar for Cher or be in a Broadway show, but those ended up being really great blessings in my life and career. So you can never see where it's all going. You just work hard and make the best of every situation.
Yeah. Well, when you were younger, like who were your influences and some of your favorite musicians, except AC/DC and stuff?
So I always go with bands with this because it was like in the early going, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Scorpions,
Yeah.
Dio. That was all the stuff that I liked at first, and then got a little bit more into softer, like melodic stuff like Foreigner and Journey from there. Progressive bands like Rush and Yes.
Mm-hmm.
classic bands like Pink Floyd, Zeppelin, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah.
and then all the guitar albums from there, because that stuff was really big when I was growing up. So Yngwie, Satriani, Vai, Steve
Yeah.
Morse, those guys, all that. If you mash all that stuff together,
That's you.
that's pretty, yeah.
Well, Joel, you're a great musician. Like, you're a great player, and everyone says the same thing. And you know that because everyone tells you as well. You're a great man. Like, everyone's opinion on you is the same. But, even though you're a great musician, like, everyone makes mistakes. And do you make any mistakes on stage that we don't realize? Like, how do you cover them up when you do?
Oh, playing wise?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, live.
all the time. I never play a gig as well as I would have liked to have played it. Uh, so yeah, that happens all the time. But the better you get at it, the more you can learn to cover it up. But yeah, I
Handle
make
it.
mistakes all
Yeah,
the
like,
time. Yeah.
well, this is a personal curiosity. Like, I'm obviously wondering this because you're a Sagittarius. Do you like traveling, but like not like touring? That's your job. That's what you have to do. Like, but once you get to a country, like staying in the hotel room or just getting out and exploring for a couple of hours, that's your choice. So which one are you?
I stay
Which
in the
type?
hotel for sure. Yeah, I always walk around the immediate area of wherever we are. That's always
Oh.
part of it. Drink my coffee and walk around and explore for like a couple hours and just kind of absorb like local scenery. But
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. I'm not. From there, I like to just be in the room and relax and
Yeah,
do
but
my.
that like because you have limited time, right?
No, that's just. I don't know. From there, it's like I just prefer to spend my day like doing like have a workout, play some guitar, watch a movie,
Hmm.
simple stuff. Not really tire myself out being a tourist.
Oh yeah. Um, what did you watch last? Like any? Do you have any favorite movies?
Every night right now is either watching The Last Dance on the Bulls thing on repeat on Netflix, or I've also been making my way through the whole 95 Bulls season. Guy
Mhm.
has the whole season on YouTube, and so out of the 82 game season, I think I'm through 56 of the games right now or something. So I'll
Yeah.
just watch back a 95 Bulls game or watch The Last Dance. That stuff for me is like my escape, and uh, growing up and having the 90s Bulls be a part of my growing up was really cool. They're iconic now, but like that when I was younger, that was
Hmm.
just a local team. So
Do you remember the first record you bought?
the first one I bought was For Those About to Rock, but I
Oh
think
yeah.
Back in Black was probably the one that registered more with me. But I wore them both out, and it wasn't an album; it was a cassette. But
Do you
I would
still buy records? Like even now? Like
no,
no, just online streaming. Yeah.
don't buy, don't stream. I don't.
Oh, you don't even listen when you're at home to
No,
chill or nothing? Oh man.
no way. I work on music all day. Why would I, in my downtime, why would I want to listen to music?
That's pretty correct. Like um I I really don't want to let you go, but I have like two questions left.
Okay.
And it's been half an hour and I don't want to keep you too long because you're pretty busy. Is there one thing you always want in your writer?
Uh, Not really. I mean, my thing is like hummus on the road. I eat a lot of hummus with hummus and veggies like before the show, so it's light and I'm not feeling weighed down. And seltzer water, and then for guilty pleasures, Coke is great. I love, after a show, yeah, I don't drink, so that for me, a nice sugary cold Coke is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Or even more than one. Two or three of them is even better.
Do you have any like pre-stage habits? Like something you always do?
Um, I mean, my whole day is kind of a habit. Everybody kind of builds their road stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
waking up, having coffee, working out, going to the gig, eating the veggies and hummus. Right before the gig, always just, say a little prayer, make sure everything it can be as
Saying a little prayer.
you know, all part of it. And then afterwards, relax and enjoy the moment that you kind of go like this, and then you don't want to go all the way back down, so you kind of try
Yeah.
and stay here the rest of the night and celebrate. But my celebrations have gotten pretty mild.
Well, is there like a crazy thing a fan ever said to you? Like, what was the craziest thing a fan ever said to you? Because that happens to some people.
I would love to film a documentary on just the things that are said to me in meet and greets or after show stuff. I think that would be amazing. I think people would be blown away at just somehow having a camera mounted on my shoulder.
Like
So,
what people said to me on the road with Joel Hoekstra.
it's too much to comment on one, but yeah, if I somehow had a camera and it was legal, I think it would be an amazing documentary to make, and people could watch what's said to somebody for over the course of, like, if I had my whole career, oh my gosh.
That must be like pretty wild. Your entire career.
Yeah, if you envisioned it in your mind as weird as possible, you'd still have to make it weirder to make it reality.
Yeah, I didn't, but now I kind of did.
Yeah. So yeah, you meet all kinds of people.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Joel, thank you. Like for
Thank you so much.